So probably has something to do with the firewall and sharing their data with everybody in the county.
One would think.
That's pretty critical, I would say.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
My name is Jolene. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia at the ENT Institute, and you're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast.
Thank you for that intro. I'm David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Cardin. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, David.
So happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Yep. So getting in a good Sunday morning recording this time.
Well, you know, when you go overseas for 2 weeks and a little more than that, we've got to make time up.
Yep. Gotta get ahead of the game.
Yeah, see, we don't even take vacation from recording. Just saying.
Yeah, I know. All the money we're making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had to. How often do you publish a podcast? Every Friday morning. And when did you start? In May 2015. Every Friday morning since May 2015?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, yeah. You know, we do the blooper show, but yeah, every Friday morning we publish one. Wow. I guess you are a podcaster.
That's some staying power right there.
It's something.
You just enjoy talking to me, and that's what keeps you going.
I don't know why I keep showing up, honestly. I have no idea.
Which brings us to our topic today, which is false claim settlements.
That's perfect. Great segue.
I know. So we're going to be talking about some people who said they did something they didn't do.
And then didn't care that somebody pointed that out.
Yep, absolutely. But before we dive into that, do you yet know where you're going to be coming up?
Honestly, I mean, I haven't had time to make sure of the dates, but I'm doing an event in Chicago in September, and then September the 25th, I'm going to be in Memphis, Tennessee. That's right, Memphis. Doing a presentation to the Tennessee Ambulatory Surgical Center Association. That's on it's the 26th of September at their annual meeting. And that's all I have for right now. Oh, I am doing a live webinar for the Format Approved folks. They're needing somebody to step in and host their live webinars for their HIPAA class. Mm-hmm. So I am doing that in July. That starts on July 24th. So they do, Wednesday, Thursday. So July 24th, 25th, 31st, and 1st. And I'll have a link to that on the website. You can go straight from Help Me with HIPAA to me helping you with HIPAA. Yeah. Okay.
That'll work.
There you go. There's a lot of aimlessly wandering through the schedule.
Yeah. And we do have another boot camp potentially.
I know. We've got
every time I mention it, I just hear the stress in your voice.
I know. And then you keep doing it.
It's so fun.
Moving along.
Moving along. All right. Before we dive into today's episode, here's a word from our sponsors.
Cybercrime is a multi-billion-dollar industry and growing. How confident are you that your computer network can withstand a cyber attack? Can you afford to take the chance that what you have today will protect you? Call Security First IT and find out if the cybersecurity in your business is something you should be concerned about, or if you can rest easy knowing your business is protected. Visit them online at securityfirstit.com. That's securityfirstit.com and schedule a time to talk.
All right, so let's dive into the risk analysis false claims settlement.
Yeah. I thought, let's change things up a little bit. We talk about the security risk analysis, or SRA, for HIPAA all the time, and how doing it, you got to do it. And we haven't talked in a long time about what was originally called meaningful use. And this case involves back when it was called meaningful use. So, plus, once I get stuck on something, it's hard for me to move on and call it MIPS or MACRA or whatever it is. I think it's MIPS now. But anyway, the story is about what happens when you attest to saying, yeah, we did everything we're supposed to do to get that incentive money.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I know people.
We both do.
I don't know that there's probably not many people out there that hadn't been around for a little while that probably doesn't know somebody that fits this.
Yeah. And in some of the cases, they don't know that they're wrong.
Yeah, maybe.
There are some cases where they thought they actually did it. What it turns out that they did, and this especially in the early years,
Mm-hmm.
I saw some that you just had to accept it because the vendors told them that's all they needed to do, and essentially it was a gap analysis, which we talked about the difference between a gap analysis and a risk analysis.
Yeah, this also falls back into the day where a lot of these EHR vendors were telling people, look, you don't have to do any of this. We have it all covered for you. You don't have to do HIPAA and all this. Mm-hmm. And because I know of more than a couple of people that, were getting meaningful use money, because I would ask, did you get meaningful use money? Because, I would want to try to get some of that for IT stuff because that's what it was supposed to be used for.
That's
and
right.
I would say, great, you have meaningful use money. Let me see your risk analysis so we know where to put that money. And then they look at you sideways.
Uh-huh.
What risk analysis?
You see them cock their head both ways like the dog does.
Exactly. I'm like,
wait a minute. What are you talking about? Those are not my words. Yeah. And there is way more of it out there than you would know. And I've got cases where, a new administrator takes over and then they receive the audit to prove that they actually did all the stuff. And they're going through and then they can't find any paperwork from where their predecessors had done it and attested. And there's none. There's nothing. There's not even, hey, we thought about it. There's nothing. And they attested yes. And I flat out tell them, look, give the money back and just hope that you're not charged with fraud. Just say, look, I can't find it. I don't know if it happened. I wasn't here. I can't find them. They say they don't remember, whatever it is, and just give the money back. This story is why I tell them to do that.
Yep. So.
Yeah, because the Department of Justice is, that they kind of sick of healthcare. And many people don't know this because I guess they worry about, HIPAA and telling me what to do because of HIPAA. But most of them wouldn't even think twice of if somebody said you're defrauding the government and lying to your patients. They'd be like, what? No, I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've got a whole new ball game because, lately, at least earlier this year, in the end of 2018, the Department of Justice made several mentions of how much money they recovered in false claims acts, false claim act cases in fiscal year 2018. In fact, $2.8 billion.
Yeah, that's worth coming to work for.
I know, right? So everybody that worries about the, what was it, 100 million? It wasn't even 100 million, was it? That OCR got, 16 million is their biggest one ever.
Yeah. But the shocking part of that number is not just that it's 2.8 billion, but that 2.5 billion of that came from healthcare alone.
Right. Yeah. True that.
So
and,
if it weren't for healthcare, they wouldn't have that much.
Yeah, and it's not like they're looking at military contractors, other government vendors. They're looking at all these folks, but guess who does it the most? Healthcare. Now, granted, that's not to say that a lot of that has to do with people doing these scams and filing false claims, like literally false insurance claims to Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
That's big chunks of it. And whether it's for drugs or cash or whatever, that's what a ton of that is. However, that's drug and medical device manufacturers, managed care providers, hospitals, pharmacies, hospice organizations, laboratories, and physicians. 2.5 billion. But that's not enough. It's worse. That's the ninth consecutive year that they've had over $2 billion out of healthcare.
Oh, wow. At least they're consistent.
Clearly it's not getting any better.
Mm.
All they have to do is there's so many fish in the pond, they just throw the hook in and they're going to get a nice big fish.
Apparently.
Yeah. But there was a really nice quote from one of the attorney generals, and I'm trying to find it here. You see it, David?
Yeah. It's
okay.
The Department of Justice has placed a high priority on rooting out and pursuing those who cheat government programs for their own gain. The recoveries announced today are a message that fraud and dishonesty will not be tolerated.
Yeah, that was about the 2.8 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the HIPAA penalties are nothing compared to what these things are. Yet nobody blinks an eye because they associate security risk analysis with HIPAA. And I never did one before. I'm not going to start now. But here's the thing is HIPAA has no incentive to turn you in right now. They're supposed to figure out one, but there's no incentive right now.
Yeah, when they do that, boy. Ooh.
Yeah. Because right now the whistleblowers are making bank on some of these things big time.
Not just that, but I don't know how OCR is going to handle it.
No.
It's just open the floodgates, brother. All right, I might start me a new business.
Yeah, you're talking about getting into the billions possibly then too.
Start me one, a Whistleblowers Anonymous.
Yeah, and you know what? They've even said, look, if you'll turn yourself in, we'll be nicer to you.
Yeah.
They're not saying if you turn yourself in, we won't fine you.
Right.
And get the money back. What they're saying is if you turn yourself in, we won't hit you as hard.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's the Department of Justice's attitude right now towards false pretenses for government money. And all of you folks that attested to doing a security risk analysis that you may not be certain you actually did should listen to what had happened was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And don't ask me to backdate it either.
Oh, my God. OMG.
I'm not backdating your SRA from last week to 2015.
Yeah. And the number of times that's what's indicative of how many we know haven't done it, right?
Uh-huh.
Because, I get people, IT companies there for a while were calling me pretty regularly and saying, what am I supposed to do when they ask me to backdate this till last year or the year before or 2 years ago? And I'm like, the answer is no.
Have you ever heard of integrity?
I was like, you just tell them no. They're like, I really don't want to do this, but what happens? I was like, you're going to get in trouble. They're already in trouble. The ship has sailed.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're asking you to backdate it. So no. And that happened so much for a period of, it hadn't happened anymore. So they haven't been auditing as many, maybe, or people actually started doing them. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll take the latter.
No, right? But here's the thing. In the beginning on these, you really only had to do a risk analysis about protecting the data in the EHR. The way it was written, all you had to worry about was what was in the EHR, and you needed to do it in the method that was defined by HIPAA. But the specific PHI was what was in the EHR.
Mm-hmm.
So you could just look at the EHR itself, how you were accessing it, all of those kind of things. It wasn't as big as a HIPAA one. Then it changed, and it got more complicated and was more specific because they realized what was happening, I think. and that the systems were now integrating and they were doing more and more. So they changed it. So it's basically you need to be able to be doing a HIPAA one to get the money and not a gap analysis.
Yeah, thank goodness.
So this case is Coffee Health System in Burlington, Kansas. I don't even know where that is.
Is it coffee or Kofi?
Coffee? I don't know.
I don't either. Just asking.
It's coffee.
Yeah, it's early. We'll do coffee.
There you go. I just finished my coffee. But it's clearly, we're not talking about a big place, but it's certainly big enough to have several things like a health system, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not huge, but it's a huge area, let's say. The county it's in is bigger than the town, probably, of Burlington. It's, everybody lives in the county, not the actual town. But it's a health system with, let's see, I done clicked.
Yeah.
They have a home health agency, 5 clinics, 2 long-term care facilities, and a 25-bed critical access hospital. So that's not T90.
No.
No, they're supporting a good bit of folks. And with that in mind, they obviously wanted some piece of that meaningful use money.
Mm-hmm.
They were incentivized to get that money. So guess what they did? They attested.
They checked the box.
They clicked, yes, I attest. And the thing is, somebody had to be the one to attest.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody had to be the one that said, yes, this is what I've done, and sign off on it. There is part of the problem, right? Because that means, you're putting your signature on something that you may or may not understand or agree with or believe, or who knows.
Yeah. Well, when you get the things like this, you really need to have at least one other person that's also going behind and kind of verifying these things, so that that one person doesn't decide everything for the entire system.
I know, because one person could bring down Equifax.
Yeah.
So
obviously,
one dude. Anyway,
yeah, it's called checks and balances.
That's right. So they said that they met the guidelines to get payments in 2012, which would say that they had to do a risk analysis in 2011. And then 2013, they had to do one in 2012, or at least review the one they did in 2011. So then,
yeah. So you would think that when it says you have to review the previous one you did, that would kind of clue you in that you should have had one.
if you don't do a new one, you got to at least review it. So this all comes to light, though, in January 2016. So we're looking at over 3 years ago. The former CIO and the former corporate compliance officer were filing a whistleblower false claim lawsuit. And that's kind of how that works, is who's ever the whistleblower files the lawsuit on behalf of the government.
Okay.
So here's the story. Yeah, you start covering how it all went down there, brother.
Well, the IT guy.
Oh shit, I got a guy.
Yeah.
Well, he's CIO, but it is the middle of nowhere, Kansas.
Right. So the first thing he did was ask for copies of the most recent, SRA, security risk analysis, which,
that's what I would do.
Something, yeah. I talk about that all the time when I go into a new prospect or take on a new client. Show me your SRA. Not because I'm auditing them. It's because I need to make sure I'm doing what they said they're doing.
Exactly.
So definitely something you would expect to happen.
And what your policies and procedures say.
Exactly. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
They had none.
He just kept asking. He kept asking. And this is where the compliance officer came into the thing, because she was like, what do you mean we don't have one?
Yeah. Not 2011, not 2012, not 2013. which is when they had attested they were doing them.
Yeah.
Nope, can't find it.
Yeah. So he took over August 2014. He's thinking, not only now they at least said at least not 2011 through 2013. He's like, well, I'm not attesting for this year without doing one.
Well, they did find documentation that they tried to do one at some point.
No, I don't think he ever found any that they had to even try it. I think he found a big fat zero, is what I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was documentation that, I don't know. We'll see. I think it was, everybody thought that what they had was a security risk analysis, one of those. And then he would get it and, it wasn't one.
Right. Well, that happens a lot. People think they have something that they don't. Somebody ran a scan. Somebody oversold them on a product.
Yeah.
We still see that. We still see that today.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would bet that there was some paperwork where somebody made a stab at it, probably back in the original days, 2005, that kind of stuff, because everybody was making a stab at it in the late 2000, maybe 2009. But he couldn't find anything once they were getting meaningful use money. Not a thing. So, as any other IT person would do, he said,
let's run some scans.
Let's look and see what's out there. And bam. It was, you knew it was going to be bad. I'm sure he did. If no one's looking, you know how bad it is.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And how bad was it, David?
It was real bad. So they found out that, there were on the same firewall and network connections with several other county government offices. So that's not good.
No.
And we do see that in these smaller municipalities and towns. We have one where we handle the town government, and the police department and the town hall share the same internet connection. Used to share the same network until we came along. Very concerning. So, but in this case, their hospital systems share the same firewall and network as other county government offices. So things like your local schools, your libraries, everything's connected to the hospital network. Crazy. So I'm thinking I'm going to be sitting in the library hacking into the hospital on the public network. So there were also no usernames, no passwords that were required according to one report. And
it had to be awful.
Yeah.
That's where I say, run like the wind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can't imagine. This is one of those scans where within, mere seconds, your face just starts melting.
Yeah, your heart's pounding and it's not even your network, so I can't imagine what it would be for the person that just took the job to watch over all this information only to find out that no one's been watching over it.
But this is a perfect example that we run into a lot, where if you ask the question about their IT network or their systems or whatever, the response you get is everything's fine. Everything works perfectly.
It works.
Everything's great.
Works.
Just because, just because it works doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah. Do you drive your car until it just quits running? Is that what you do?
I have.
Yeah. But people don't get it. I get a brand new car and I just do nothing. I just drive it now for, 3-4 years. And then when something quits working, I don't understand why. Never new tires, no rotation, no air in the tires, no nothing. That's what it's like when you aren't looking.
Yeah. It's terrible.
If you aren't looking, something's cooking. So that says to me, things needed to be dealt with. So one would believe that he dealt with it.
Yeah. Well, he did call in a third party to do an assessment Was it Cardin? Did you know that 83% of healthcare organizations report a strong negative impact to their bottom line after a data breach? So many doctors think they are HIPAA compliant and have nothing to worry about. Many of those organizations thought the same thing before it happened to them. Call Cardin today at 678-292-5001 so they can assess your practice and help ensure you are protected and prepared. Visit cardinhq.com to learn more. So they called in a third party to do an assessment for the 2014 attestation, and they found, and I quote, dozens of unique vulnerabilities, which included 5 critical ones. So probably has something to do with the firewall and sharing their data with everybody in the county.
One would think.
That's pretty critical, I would say.
But now you'll never believe what happened next.
Yeah. So then he submits the report to the officials and begins to address the critical issues. But the hospital leadership said that they were, and I quote, not interested in devoting resources to the 2014 SRA findings and did not provide
The CIO.
Yeah, the CIO with adequate tools or support to properly address the deficiencies. Not interested. Don't really care about this. Old news.
We're not going to give you tools. We're not going to give you money. So how many times do people tell us that, we know that we need to do these things, but we can't get it funded?
Yeah. But here's the kicker. So first of all, it's a 2014 attestation that they also, falsely claimed. So the CIO guy, the integrity thing we talked about earlier, he's like, I'm not going to approve this. I'm
not putting my name on that.
We gotta fix these issues. And he kept trying. Look, we have to fix these issues. I am not approving this thing. So what do you do when somebody won't do what you tell them? you just fire them. Just get rid of them. Find somebody else that has no integrity and put them in here.
Yeah. If you won't do it, I'll find somebody that will.
Right.
You can hear it now. So they just fired him.
I know.
Because he was trying to do his job.
So now you know why the whistleblowing happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because and we'll explain that in just a minute, a little further because he knew other stuff that had happened. But you know what? That's probably when the compliance officer said, "Yeah, me neither," because I'm not signing it.
Yeah, no kidding.
They probably turned to the compliance officer and said, "You sign off on it," and they're like, "I did it before. I didn't know, and now I know, and I am not doing it."
Yep.
So that would have been sometime right near the end of 2014 for them to attest.
Yep.
And it doesn't say whether or not she was terminated. I wonder if she quit or she was. But I couldn't get access to all the details, which I like to read all the court cases, but I couldn't get access to them.
But they did get together, wonder twin powers activate. And they got $50,000 out of their trouble. So, whistleblower payout, $50,000, that's $25,000 a piece. Not a bad deal.
Yeah, it's not clear whether it's 25 each or 50 each. I couldn't ever get that clearly stated.
Wow, 50 each would be even better.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm telling you, quit my job. I'm just going to be a professional whistleblower.
It's your jobs where you get all that information. So.
I know. I'll tell somebody else and we'll split it on the back end.
But here's the thing that people don't know and they, forget about is this is not the first time that these kind of things happen, because in 2015, and this was at the beginning of the podcast, so we were still figuring our way around, and we didn't cover this then, I don't think, but in Texas, there was a CFO of the Shelby Regional Medical Center, and same scenario, made false statements with the funds distributed in the EHR incentive program. The CFO pled guilty and was sentenced to 23 months in prison and was personally ordered to pay over $4 million in restitution.
Ouch.
So that's why the CIO said, I'm out.
Yeah.
I am not doing this. And probably, that was all happening around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't do anything. This news comes out in 2015, and then they filed their suit January 2016. I'm betting that had something to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be like, no, there's 4 million reasons right there that I'm not doing it. You can fire me all day long and twice on Sunday. I'm not signing that.
I'm not doing it. And, clearly the CFO was told that we haven't done all these things and probably just filled out the form and didn't even ask.
Yeah. Well, we do often get the question of, can I personally get in trouble for, X, Y, Z?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah. So all of you folks that did the attestation, you need to go back and double check, because if your name's on it, you have been put on notice by the Department of Justice, which is way worse than OCR.
Yep.
Because OCR doesn't send you to prison for 23 months.
White out. Just white out.
But I mean, they're getting, the $155 million from eClinical Works last year. That was another whistleblower case.
Mm-hmm.
And that one was super bad and went on and on and on for years. And then this year, Greenway Health, another EHR vendor, settles for $57.25 with the Department of Justice because they misrepresented, similar to eClinical Works, in the certification for meaningful use. They kind of made it look like it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some kickback schemes going on, and I bet you anything, eClinical Works had a whole lot more going on just because of stuff I know to be true. That they didn't even scratch the surface of some of those things that were going on in those early years of the meaningful use.
Yeah.
They caught them, falsifying their certification, but there's other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's one thing to, not do it and say you did it, but to just completely, fabricate everything, that's just a whole nother level.
Yeah. So, it's not something that they're going to put up with. And for all of you who, you've got ex-employees that know that stuff, $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about the whistleblower with eClinical Works got millions. So just saying, like David said, he would take the $50,000. He would take $25,000.
Well, you figure they're probably going to get paid, or some of these people, depending on their position, are getting paid their annual salary.
Yeah. That $50,000 might be more than they make in a year.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's pretty incentivizing.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you.
Especially when you're not a friendly boss.
If they open that up to HIPAA violations, that's going to change the landscape. It's going to be Wild West.
Yeah. It's already one where I had somebody tell me, my doctor won't let us do HIPAA training because he doesn't want employees to turn him in.
Well, okay, I guess.
I was like, and I mean, that was like this year, like a couple of months ago. Somebody told me that. And I'm like, what?
Well, that's kind of like the thing that you do for the assessment, the business associate due diligence. I can't answer all this because then you'll know what I'm not doing.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing. We don't want to empower people with knowledge because then you'll know we're not doing things.
Well, it's clearly based on just our, periphery knowledge. We're not deep in there on these, and our awareness of what's going on out there, it's widespread. No wonder it's 2.5 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting to dip into it because you're not looking at this. You're cheating the government. They don't like that.
Yeah.
And I love the ones that complain that about somebody else doing it, but then they feel they're justified in theirs. I do it because somebody else did it and took my money. What? Okay. You're in a loop there. You're going to need to get out of that loop.
And no matter what the number looks like, it's just a drop in the bucket because you know there's tons more happening that they didn't catch.
Oh, yeah. Because, when they do these investigations, they don't look at everything, which is, OCR will come in, and if you have a single patient reporting a complaint, if they do open an investigation, they could ask for everything. So if the complaint is just a privacy thing, OCR looks at security. They'll ask you for a security risk analysis just because most people don't have them, So these are focused probably, but I don't know. They probably got so big. They're like, look, I'm afraid to turn over another rock.
Yeah, no kidding.
But this was so blatant. He had proof where they fired him and said, we will not spend a nickel on these things that you've said are leaving our patients wide open to privacy violations, identity theft, all these kind of things. They're wide open to it, but we're not going to give you a nickel.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't think people really understand that that's what they said is we don't care about our patients.
No, and honestly, I'm expecting at some point for the the patient community at large to finally start asking these questions. Even down to their local providers. Like, what are you doing to really protect me?
Yeah.
I mean, you say you care about me as a patient. Okay, great. You're looking at my charts and you're giving me medicine and all that, but what are you doing to really protect me when it comes to my patient health information? Because you and I both know there is not that many people out there that are doing what they should be doing, which is scary.
Well, I've had cases where I'm talking to them because there's been a violation and they say, no, we got it all covered.
Clearly.
It's kind of like, well, it's the same discussion. Well, once you have the high trust certified, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
So was Anthem.
Yeah. I mean, I live in a small town and I can tell you that the biggest providers in this area, and I'm not talking about the hospitals, I'm talking about the independent providers, the biggest ones in this area, not even close to having any of this stuff done. And as many times as I've had conversations with them, they're just like these people. Like, we're not going to spend the money on it. We don't care. If something comes up, then we'll pay the fine and address it at that time, but we're not going to be proactive. And I'm seeing patients go in and out of there every day, and I'm thinking, if you knew what I knew, you wouldn't do business with them, because I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I moved all of my health from everybody. That when I find out you're not protecting health information, I'm done. I'm finding another provider.
Because it's clear you don't care,
right? And if you don't care about that,
what else do you not care about?
Then where do you draw the line of caring? I can't trust you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I'm hoping that maybe some of these people in the area will start asking the questions, because the local news stories, because I always like to see what the local news says. And one of them had this big banner that just said medical fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one, though, they had a quote from the health system, which I didn't see in a lot of the other reporting. And the health system, I get this, they deny any wrongdoing. They say they maintained and documented their EHR properly, and that they chose to settle because of ongoing cost and the risk of, quote, an unfavorable outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, we only had to pay $250,000 back out of the $3 million that we took, and they're still claiming they didn't do anything wrong. That's the part I don't get.
Yeah.
They're still claiming they didn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And, if they're still claiming that and you're in that area as a patient, you should be asking, because people don't do these. I can assure you, there are cases that I am well aware of where employees have turned things in, or, disgruntled employees. They've turned things in and they're like, the business is like, well, it was a disgruntled employee. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's still wrong.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't wager that I don't see how you could have had a proper risk analysis and still be connected to the library.
Yeah. I guess we need to start privacy shaming these people on social media.
But it's just the same old. Is they're claiming that they documented everything, and they did this. What they're leaving out is they had a list of serious problems, and they refused. They're not disputing that they refused to spend the money.
Yeah.
On fixing problems. They're just disputing that they didn't have the documentation.
Well, as well as I do, you run into this all the time because I run into it all the time. You bring a list of things that have to be addressed in some kind of priority order, and they look at it, and oftentimes they say, we can't afford to do this. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I get that, but that's like if I go to the hospital and I have a hole in my chest from a bullet wound, and they bring in your invoice for this open heart surgery is going to be, I can't afford that. Okay. It's not good. It's not good for you if you can't afford this.
Yeah. It's a technological gaping wound.
Yeah.
Is what healthcare has.
You have to fix this.
Yeah. So it is over and over and over the same issue of, that question of priorities. When it's because they don't seem to see this as part of patient care, and that is still our objective, is it not, Dave?
It is. It's what gets me up in the morning.
No, it's about patient
It keeps
care.
me up at night.
Yeah, there's that. But I know that there are cases where, I'm aware of cases where doctors will say, I can't deal with this right now. I'm not spending this kind of money. We'll figure something out after I get back from Italy. And I'm like, maybe you don't go to Italy and you go to Epcot and do a world tour.
Yeah, there is that.
I can't spend this money on this right now because I'm going to go spend 2 or 3 weeks in Italy or something.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are concerning. And
so
people are going to have to start asking to make any change.
Yeah,
clearly.
So would you like to tell your patients that? Like,
I know.
Some of it blows my mind. I mean, it's one thing to protect your computers and all that when you're thinking about, well, I just I don't want my systems to go down, but to protect the data that's protecting the patient data. It's not just your business data; it's the patient data. When you go to the extent where you're not even doing anything to protect the people that are entrusting you with their information, they don't have a choice. I can't walk into the doctor's office and say, I'm not giving you any information.
I know, right?
I don't have a choice. I do have a choice in providers, and that's where I have to draw the line.
If you can find one.
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah.
So
there you go. We're at the end.
We're at the end.
At least
we're done.
Now.
So if you were one of these people that took the money and hadn't done the work, shame on you. I will privacy shame you.
I can see you now, your finger out,
I'm just wagging it.
Shame. Yeah. But I don't know why that became a thing where you have the one finger out and the other finger scraping across it. That's a shame thing. I don't know. I'll have to look
Yeah,
that
now
up.
you're going to have to have me Googling stuff. All right.
I know.
So
there's everybody's homework till next week.
Yep. But if you are the person that did it, or you're working for the company that did it, then find a way to fix it. It's better to have done something now than have never done anything at all.
And don't try to backdate.
Yeah, don't do that. All right. That's our show for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it scared you a little bit. Remember to follow us on social media, share us out to your favorite sites, and rate us on our podcasting app. We need your help to keep spreading the word. And as always, remember for Donna and myself that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.